We've got a massive 14-game card in the NHL going today, and I've picked out 3 different bets and parlays that I like. Now, when betting the NHL, there's a certain prop that I like to target, and it's the both teams to score 2 or more goals prop. You can also do both teams to score 3 or more. You can also do both teams to score 3 or more no in some different books. But mostly I like to target the both teams to score 2 or more for this prop. And the reason being is that look down the scores of the NHL any given night, and you're almost never going to see a shutout. You also rarely see a 1-1 tie going into overtime. And you take that a step further, there's not too many games that even end 2-1. So by that simple logic that there's very few shutouts and very few 1-1 games, if someone's always finishing a game winning at least 2-1, you're probably about 75% of the way there without trying to guess who's going to win the game. You're just hoping for that second team to also get 2 goals. Now, obviously, it's a lot harder than that, and you still have to look at various different things and who's playing hot, who's cold, what goalies are playing well. There's different things to mix into the equation, but it's a good way to get started in some of your bets. Now, you also can't just bet it by itself. It's often very juiced, but if you put even just 2 of them together, you can often come close to even money, or even use just one of those games into a parlay with something else. It's a good starter point to start with. So, with all that being said, let's jump into the picks for today, and we're going to start with 2 games where I like both teams to score 2 or more. And first up, we're going to start with the Rangers and the Sabres. I like to look at the Sabres as my golden goose in this prop. They've cashed a both teams to score 2 prop in 19 of 22 games. In fact, they've even cashed a both teams to score 3 or more prop in 6 of 10. They have the offense, and you know they're going to get scored on. Hell, they just got pummeled 10-4 in their last game. In fact, in their past 35 games, they've allowed 2 or more goals in 34 of them. And the Rangers, at least in my mind, while they still have this image maybe of a more defensive team, the both teams to score 2 or more prop has actually cashed in 6 straight and in 13 of 15 Rangers games. They've allowed 2 or more in each of those 15. And while Shesterkin still maybe has this air of invincibility around him, he's actually allowed 2 or more goals in 15 straight games and in 16 of his past 19. So let's go both teams to score 2 or more in the Rangers and the Sabres, and we'll do the same thing with the Oilers and the Leafs. I'm not sure we need to go too deep on this one. Matthews, Marner, McDavid, Draisaitl, and company will all square off in probably what's the best game on the card tonight in Toronto. There's offense everywhere you look, but there's not too many standout goalies anywhere you look. Edmonton has scored 2 or more goals in 27 of 28. The both teams to score 2 has cashed in 26 of those 28 and in each of their past 14, with the bonus being that the both teams to score 3 has actually hit in 7 of their past 14. Toronto can play a little bit of defense when they decide to and they really want to. They've held an opponent to under 2 goals in 3 of their past 6, but that rarely happens, and they've also allowed 5 to Edmonton recently in a 5-2 loss. Toronto has scored 2 goals on their own, though, in 20 of 21 games. If you go both teams to score 2 or more in those 2 games, you get minus 112 odds. Let's continue down the board, and we'll go to Dallas and Seattle. This is going to be the first leg of another both teams to score 2-game parlay. It's been a while since the Kraken have allowed fewer than 2 goals. It's been actually 16 straight games. They were on a run of 5 wins with scores of 5-3, 5-4, 4-2, 3-2, and 5-2 before suffering a 5-4 defeat to the Senators. I like those trends going up against a Stars team that's cashed both teams to score 2 or more in 8 straight games. They just scored 10 against Buffalo, and they've allowed 2 or more in 12 straight games. And we'll go to Ottawa and Vancouver for the second leg of this. The Canucks overs have cooled off a little bit of late and they did have a surprise 4-1 win over Toronto, but they've still allowed 2 or more goals in, wait for it, 41 of 42 games. So you know it's very likely the Canucks are getting scored on, but they still do have offensive talent, and playing at home, they should be able to get a couple goals themselves. Ottawa has either scored or allowed 5 or more goals in 7 straight games. They're coming off a 9-goal thriller with Seattle in their last game, and they've also allowed 2 or more goals in 14 of 15 games. If you do that prop with Dallas and Seattle and Ottawa and Vancouver, you have plus 110 odds. And in the final bet, we're going to do kind of a mixed bag of different outcomes between 3 different games. And we're going to start it off with the Chicago and Tampa Bay game. Chicago got 2 early goals against Florida last night before falling behind 3-2 in the third period, tying in the dying seconds, and then losing in overtime. They've allowed 3 or more goals in 8 of 9, and that could continue against a desperate Tampa Bay team. Tampa has only 3 wins in their past 10 games, so they need to get back on track as the regular season begins to wind down. However, they have scored 3 or more goals in 8 of their past 10, and they're likely going to dominate the shot count against the tired Hawks team today, giving them plenty of chances to get 3 goals today. Next, St. Louis and Columbus. You can look at 2 bad teams playing and call it bad hockey game, or you can look at it the way I like to look at it and look at it as a good opportunity for some good old-fashioned pond hockey, which is usually what happens when 2 bad teams square off with nothing on the line. St. Louis has allowed 2 or more goals in 21 straight games. Meanwhile, Columbus has allowed 2 or more goals in 23 of 25. So let's go both teams to score 2 in St. Louis and Columbus. And finally, we're going to look to one of the late games, and it's Nashville against LA. We're just going to ask the Kings to score 2 goals on their own in this one. The Kings have one of the top winning percentages in the league in the new year. They're riding a 5-game winning streak, and they've scored 2 goals or more in 18 of 19. They've also scored 3 goals or more in 7 of 8. Against Nashville this season, they've lost 5-3 and 4-2. They've also won 4-3, with the common trend being they've scored at least 2 goals in all of those games. Kings to score 2, Blues and Jackets each to score 2, and Lightning to score 3. That gives you plus 101 odds. Those are the 3 bets I'm riding with today in the NHL. Good luck, everyone.